life gets rough, that is when we come together.
Ed Robertson welcoming you to TV Confidential, radio talk show about television. Lee Purcell will join us in our second hour. Lee Purcell, two-time Emmy-nominated actress and film star, whom all of you know from Big Wednesday, Valley Girl, Due South, Persons Unknown, Stir Crazy, Adam at 6 a.m., and many other movie and TV productions. Lee's latest film, Carol of the Bells, was one of her most rewarding experiences as an actress. We'll tell you why when Lee Purcell joins us in our second hour. We hope you'll stay tuned for that. In the meantime, joining us later on in this hour will be singer-actress Julie Budd. Julie has a new show coming up in New York that pays tribute to many of the great song composers that Julie has been fortunate enough to work with throughout her career. She also has a new CD of Frank Sinatra standards that is unlike any other Sinatra tribute you will ever hear. We'll tell you what we mean by that when Julie Budd joins us later on in this hour. We hope you'll stay tuned for that as well. In the meantime, we will open up tonight's program by welcoming back our friend Kat Kramer. Kat Kramer, daughter of actress Karen Kramer, an Oscar-winning filmmaker Stanley Kramer, and an award-winning singer, actress, comedian, and producer in her own right. Kat Kramer is part of the ensemble cast of Turnover, a truly wonderful independent film directed by Linda Palmer that has been doing very well on the film festival circuit, including wins for Best Feature at the 2019 Golden State Film Festival and wins for Audience Choice and Best Family Film at the 2019 Idlewild International Festival of Cinema. Turnover will also be opening the Palm Springs International Down Syndrome Film Festival coming up next week, and we'll tell you more about that, as well as some of Kat's other projects in just a second. But first, we began our conversation by telling Kat, I really, really, really love the movie.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad. Yeah, it's definitely a labor of love project, and, you know, primarily it's a women filmmaker, another woman co-wrote it. It's all female, basically, crew, so that's something I want to bring up about, you know, women's empowerment behind the scenes, too.
The other thing that, and I'm guessing that's part of what attracted you to the movie, besides the fact that it is a very female-driven movie in every sense of the word, because Linda Palmer is a filmmaker who usually makes films that have something to say.
Yeah, social issue films. That's exactly why I was interested, and exactly why she asked me to do it, too. I joined on as a co-producer, so I'm, you know, have that element to be able to get the film out there and spread awareness, because there's so many social issues represented in it, and it's so much about inclusion and diversity, which, as you know, is my main theme, because that kind of covers all the issues.
And really about what it means to live.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you know, the character that of Julie was not deaf in the original script, and so because of my work with the deaf community and entertainment, and advocating specifically for the deaf, we decided to turn that character into a deaf character, and then I insisted a deaf actress play the part, because even though everybody thinks that we've, you know, made major progress in that area, they still want to, you know, put an able-bodied person or a hearing person or a, you know, in one of those roles, and you know, that's not acceptable anymore, any more than having a trans role played by someone who's not transgender. So it works all the way around that you have to actually have the authenticity of the actor, and there's so many of them out there in the deaf community especially, that that character had to be played by a deaf actress.
And yet, because this goes back to what we said a little while ago, because it's an independent film, it's a quote-unquote small film, by having a deaf actress play that particular character, it works, and it fits in very seamlessly. As you say, it adds to the authenticity without calling attention to itself.
Exactly. And, you know, when I first read the script, the two Down syndrome characters who were such a focal point of the story, that was already in there. And this really is important because it's not every day that a film that's got mainstream appeal has, you know, actual Down syndrome actors in supporting parts, not just in one scene, but in carrying a lot of the film. And it really breaks ground in that sense.
It certainly does. For our listeners in Southern California, Turnover will be opening the Palm Springs International Down Film Festival, which takes place Friday, May 3rd through Sunday, May 5th at the Camelot Theaters in Palm Springs. Kat Kramer will be appearing at the opening on Friday, May 3rd. For more information, turnovermovie.com, facebook.com/turnover.themovie. And you mentioned Blair Williamson and Jamie Brewer.
Yes. It's interesting because this festival has been in the works for 5 years. It's actually the brainchild of Paul Belcito, because he has someone in his family who's got Downs, and his husband, Stephen Roach. And I think if you remember, not only were they producers on the third season of Child of the 70s, where I came on as Frances Rye, but they produced and wrote Teach Your Children Well, the documentary that Lily Tomlin narrates about LGBTQ bullying and violence in the schools, and that was also the fourth installment for Kat Kramer's Films That Change the World. So it's just so amazing that all these years later, that a film that I'm in, that I'm also a co-producer on, has the Down syndrome. Probably Jamie Brewer is the leading Down syndrome actress, and Blair is certainly up there with her in that regard. And they've known Jamie for many years, even before Turnover was anything that it was just a seed at that moment in Linda's mind. But they've had this festival in mind for 5 or 6 years because of their friendship with Jamie and because of all of her advocacy in the Downs community. So for us to open the very first festival like this, and I think it's one of the only ones in the world, and certainly in the Coachella Valley area, and having Turnover be the opening night film with Jamie and myself both a part of it, is just like coming around full circle. The proceeds are going to go to the Coachella Valley Down Syndrome Foundation, so it's tied in with that, and they have a lot of amazing films that they've curated throughout the whole festival, but obviously Turnover's already award-winning, and this will be its Coachella Valley debut. And, it will be playing theaters in the fall. This is just the festival element of the film, but it's just taken off already, and we just started in March, so it's just amazing, and more film festivals will be announced. It's actually playing the Manhattan Film Festival also on May 3rd, so some of the cast and Linda will be at that, and some of the producers, and also some of the cast, obviously, and the producers will be with me in Palm Springs. So we're really doing something kind of like what my father did when he launched On the Beach. Even though that was on a bigger scale and that was the premiere of the film, it opened in every continent and country, on the same night, even though the time difference. And so I think it's interesting having it play Coachella Valley and Manhattan in its debut on the same night is groundbreaking in itself.
And the Manhattan Film Festival will be of interest to our listeners on 920 WON in New York. You say, okay, it's quote-unquote smaller scale, but when you think about it, Kat, it isn't, because with social media and live streaming, and regardless of whether these two particular events are live streamed, so many things are. You do reach as many people today, just in different ways, as your dad did when he was launching his movies.
That's true. You're absolutely right. Yeah, and this is very much in the Stanley Kramer mold, in the sense that he used real Down's children in A Child Is Waiting, and real paraplegics in The Men. So I'm just he was always ahead of his time in that regard too. And this movie is all about diversity, not just those groups represented, but also ageism. You have the character of Miguel, who could be a homeboy from Homeboy Industries. He's, that's just celebrated their 30th anniversary, and I was there for the gala, and that's the largest gang rehabilitation and for ex-convicts in the world. So that fits right in with his character as well. And then the whole food industry and the whole restaurant theme, and besides it being a foodie film, just showing the dynamics there about how that works, running restaurants and just the whole sense of community about it.
It looks like you filmed the restaurant scenes. It looked like you filmed that in an actual eatery.
Yes, it was Open Sesame in Belmont Shores in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. But they have several, they have the front of the restaurant was used for Creperie Cafe and Eclectic Cafe, and then the real Open Sesame restaurant was actually represented as itself in the film. And then we filmed a lot of it at Remit Studios, which is a really neat new studio. It's been around for a few years, but it was my first time filming there in Canoga Park. But the story is supposed to take place in anywhere USA, anywhere California, but we pretty much, because it was such a Long Beach shoot and so many landmarks there that were seen just in that area. But I mean, just, you know, the people know that Open Sesame and they know that street. So we just decided to make it in Long Beach, basically, and situate the story there, especially when he goes on the boat, and, you know, you'll know all that. From those who haven't seen the film, I don't want to give too much away.
All I'll say is the independentcritic.com said, if you do not love Turnover the movie, there is something wrong with you. And having watched the movie myself, I certainly agree. It really pulls every human emotion. There are moments where I laughed out loud, and you know this, Kat, when something makes you laugh out loud, you feel it all over your face and all over your molecules. It's just a great feeling. And there are moments that tug your heartstrings. Turnover will be opening the Palm Springs International Down Syndrome Film Festival, which takes place Friday, May 3rd through Sunday, May 5th at the Camelot Theaters in Palm Springs. Kat Kramer will be appearing at the opening on Friday, May 3rd. For more information, turnovermovie.com, facebook.com/turnover.themovie. What I also really like about Turnover the movie, Kat, is every character, your character, Fran, every character, they have a little arc. And as a performer, I would imagine that's really cool when you get a chance to play someone that grows from the beginning of the picture to the end.
Yeah, I mean, she is sort of, you know, some people would look upon her as like the villain, like the female character that mirrors Henry, but she isn't really. I mean, how I approached it was she's definitely, a lot of women would understand. I mean, she's going through a divorce because he doesn't take care of his health. She doesn't feel that he really cares about their mutual son, and she just feels that he's letting the business and everything slide. And, you know, when she meets Brad, she just feels that he's going to be more of a support system for Sean, because really all she cares about is her son Sean anyway. And so, you know, in order to avoid her being a cookie-cutter narcissist or a villain or, you know, a woman that's got a lot of pretense, I tried to find the humanity in her to show that she does have feelings, but she's just very disappointed in him and doesn't feel he has his act together. So, you know, when you're playing a character that could be considered, you know, not a nice person or the villain in the piece, you still don't approach it as that. You still, you know, have to believe in their mission and what they're doing is right. So I tried to make her as believable as possible. And, you know, the whole script read very much as a comedy, but, you know, Linda's such a expert director that when Paul Guilfoyle accepted the lead role of Peter, she let him come up with his own ideas about the character that were a little bit different than the original script. So it made it more of a dramedy. That way it's not like a cliche comedy. It's not very obvious. That way it becomes more rooted in reality. I think that by rooting it in reality, it just has a lot more resonance that way.
On the line with us is Kat Kramer. Kat is one of the producers and one of the cast members of Turnover, the award-winning comedy drama directed by Linda Palmer that also features Paul Guilfoyle, who Kat just mentioned, Paul Guilfoyle, Donna Mills, Beverly Todd, Carlos Carrasco, and other familiar faces. For our listeners in Southern California, Turnover will be opening the Palm Springs International Down Syndrome Film Festival Friday, May 3rd through Sunday, May 5th at the Camelot Theaters in Palm Springs. Kat Kramer will be appearing Friday, May 3rd, along with Jamie Brewer. For more information, turnovermovie.com. You mentioned Paul Guilfoyle's contribution to the movie. Watching it, not only your scenes with Paul, but in many other scenes, there seemed like there was an improvisational vibe.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, he works very much that way. You know, having been working with Al Pacino, and, you know, he's been in some of our biggest films, and he's a very veteran actor from, you know, that a lot of people will see from film and television. but you don't usually see him in a lead part. He's usually supporting or playing a character role. So even though this is a character role, it's an ensemble piece, his role still is the central role that's going through the experience. It's a lot of improv.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. He didn't stick completely to the script. So as an actress, I just had to adjust to that. But it was so amazing to, have Beverly Todd in the film because, as you know, she's been such a long-time supporter of my screening series and has been on the host committee since day one, since Kat Kramer's Films That Changed the World launched 10 years ago. This is the 10th anniversary. And then to be able to be in a film with her, and she was interested in the role, but I wore my producer's hat and pretty much locked her into that.
Cool.
So she's just amazing at it, and so is Donna, and so is Ellen Gerstein, the trio of the blue-haired ladies.
Mm-hmm.
That gives a lot of comic relief to the story. There's just so many people in there making a contribution, and it really was such an indie film, so we all had to really work together as a family, basically, and make it work on a very low budget, and everybody so much believed in the story and what we were trying to say, so that is very evident when you see the film, that sense of community when we were filming it, and that sense of community in the story itself and in the film itself.
Turnover will be opening the Palm Spring International Down Syndrome Film Festival Friday, May 3rd through Sunday, May 5th at the Camelot Theaters in Palm Springs. For more information, turnovermovie.com, turnovermovie.com. To follow Kat Kramer, you can follow Kat Kramer on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram. And her film series, Kat Kramer's Films That Change the World.com. You have another movie coming out, Kat, called Mother's Day's Memories. What can you tell us about that?
Yes, Mother's Day Memories. It's about Alzheimer's and the effect of Alzheimer's disease on families. And this movie is so different than Turnover. It's very dramatic and poignant, as you can imagine, but it's never melodramatic. And that's by Bill Hoverston, who co-wrote it with Matthew Michael Ross, who directed and edited it. And it's Bill's story, basically, about his experience with his mother when she was going through Alzheimer's and how he dealt with that. And I don't want to, give away too much on that one either, but because it's its own story. But there was a film with Blythe Donner and Robert Forster and Hilary Swank and Michael Shannon that came out last year called What They Had, which was a similar story, and that was also a true story about a mother of a family going through Alzheimer's and how that affects loved ones. And this is very much in that same vein, and it's a much shorter film, but that's going to be going to festivals as well. I'm actually going to campaign for it to be standard film that's shown or associated with the Alzheimer's LA Association out here. They have chapters everywhere, but I'm kind of connected to that. So just because I follow what they do, the work that they do, and I think this film would be a perfect film to screen for them and for their fundraisers, besides, being released and also in festivals. Alzheimer's is so prevalent and affects so many people, so there's always need to show people's stories, and this movie really does that.
And again, going back to your roots, your family roots. I mean, that is a passion, a drive that you inherited from your dad.
Yep, absolutely. It's inherent in everything I do, whether I'm acting, the films that I present, the films that I'm making. It's just theater, even in music. I mean, it's always there. There's always that message.
On the line with us is Kat Kramer. Kat is a producer and one of the cast members of Turnover. Turnover will open the Palm Springs International Down Syndrome Festival on Friday, May 3rd. We will hear some more from Kat at the end of our second hour. We'll talk about her upcoming album, Gemstone, which pays tribute to Mick Jagger and includes Kat's solo with the late Billy Preston. We hope you'll stay tuned for that. In the meantime, we'll take a quick time out. Then Julie Budd will join us when we come back on TV Confidential. Got a product or service that you want our listeners to know about? Become an advertiser or underwriter of TV Confidential and let our brand help promote your brand. For more information, go to televisioconfidential.com/advertise or visit the TV Confidential page at advertisecast.com. Ed Robertson along with Tony Figueroa and Donna Allen from Story Salon, Southern California's longest running, regularly performing live storytelling ensemble, which I understand is at a new location.
Yeah, we're very excited about it. We're moving actually to the Party Art Studio on Laurel Canyon Boulevard, 5302 Laurel Canyon. It's a new art gallery, and it's
beautiful.
It's beautiful. Donna and I have been involved with Story Salon for the last 9+ years. We're going to be in an art gallery now. We're going to have a $5 cover, some nice refreshments, and a wonderful eclectic evening of storytelling.
Which is a great environment because it as you say, the word is eclectic, and for $5, it's a great evening of entertainment. You can't ask for much more.
No, not at all. And these stories, some of them are funny, some of them are tragic, some of them are a little off the wall, but we just have a wonderful time keeping the art of storytelling alive.
And you can find out more about it by going to storysalon.com.
Accredited by Guinness World Records, welcome to Archival Television Audio Incorporated, a peerless TV soundtrack archive, preserving the audio from television's first 3 decades, the 1950s, 60s, and 70s, the golden and silver age of television.
For more information, go to atvaudio.com.
We're Biffle and Schuster. How do you do? That's right, folks. We're Biffle and Schuster. We want to tell you about this amazing misadventures of Biffle and Schuster. It's a DVD from Kino Lover, and you're going to love it.
We're Biffle and Schuster. It's terrific.
Yeah, you know what Joe Dante says about them?
What did he say?
He says, forehead slapping funny. What impresses is the dogged authenticity to the era, which makes it all the more hilarious.
Absolutely. Accent on the high.
We're
Biffle and Schuster, as you can see. No one else can make that statement louder than we.
They say we're soporific, and it's
probably we.
Because
we're Biffle and Schuster. Oh, we're Biffle and Schuster. No, we're Biffle and Schuster.
B-I-F-F-Biffle, Biffle. S-H-W-S to Schuster.
Biffle and Schuster. Need we say more?
Available wherever DVDs are sold through our friends at Kino Lorber.
All right, you loafers, get back to work. What am I paying you for?
Why is he yelling at his shoes?